at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the 49ers versus Cincinnati Bengals recap show. Time to get all into this game. I know if you already watched the reaction show, you got instant reaction. But now we're going to get more in depth on this game and kind of break it down a little.
All about getting in depth at the graphic. And yet you have to start with the fact, Ant, that the 49ers came out and, it was odd, right? It was an odd start to this football game because while the Niners put up points early in the football game, it didn't really feel like the offense was moving very well. They weren't consistent. They weren't consistently doing the things you needed to do. It was a lot of Bengals mistakes. The Bengals were the Bungles very early on, especially on the special teams aspect of the game.
This offense was absolutely sputtering early in this game. They were getting nothing going. Kyle Shanahan came out with the run game being the focal point, and that was not what really should have happened in this situation. The Bengals came out and absolutely loaded the box against Kyle Shanahan and this offense and got off the field.
Stunned.
Luckily for the 49ers, you're right. The Bengals had a situation where they were unable to catch punts for some reason, especially early, and River Craycraft, got on one tighter than a lid on a pickle jar, and the 49ers were able to, turn that into a field goal.
Hop on that ball, P.
Yeah. Once again, the offense couldn't really get anything going in that situation. Luckily, they were in Robbie Gould's range, and he was able to make a field goal, which ended up being, I believe, like a 33-yard field goal, which is at least points on the board, at least a positive feeling, because you could have easily, been kind of down about what had happened already to start the football game.
Look, the 49ers had plenty of opportunity to capitalize early in this football game, and they just didn't. And going into half, I was not comfortable with what was going on and where this team was. I mean, yes, you had done a great job of slowing down Joe Burrow in this offense. The defense was playing pretty well, despite obvious limitations in your secondary. Your pass rush was getting after it. My favorite part was when they came out of half at one point in the third quarter, they were talking about the 49ers pass rush, how effective they were at getting pressures on Joe Burrow. And it was over 50% of dropbacks for Burrow were ending in him being pressured. And I get it. He didn't really have a turnover in this football game. He didn't make those mistakes that Joe Burrow has been prone to make in terms of actual turnovers. I mean, I know he did make some bad throws that would have been turnovers for the 49ers had not been some drops from Azeez Al Shaair or Ambry Thomas hands to the face on Jamarr Chase. But there were opportunities. They were there, but they didn't result in 49ers additional turnovers on top of what they already got. But yeah, I mean, the recovery of the fumbled punt and it resulting in 3 points instead of 7 was a huge, I don't want to say error or like gaffe, but it was a huge letdown because it was a chance to really set yourself apart early in this football game and really put the screws to Joe Burrow early on, because even when they were down 20-6, Joe Burrow knows and Taylor knows and that entire Cincinnati Bengals team knows one score puts you right back in this football game.
I had a little bit of a different feeling than you going into halftime. I really felt that after the, what had happened with the punt, fumble down there and then the touchdown by George Kittle, the situation felt like the 49ers were, on track, in full control of this game, and that if they could get a stop on the Bengals coming out of the third quarter, that they had a really good chance to put this game away.
I agree with you on that.
Because to me, it felt like that was the momentum shift. Now, early in this game when nothing was getting going, that was different, but they got this offense going, and they got it going in a big way. And I thought they were moving the ball at some point. You've seen that once Jimmy Garoppolo was able to complete passes early on, then they were able to open holes for Jeff Wilson Jr. to be able to get the run game going. Sure. And they were able to get the ball to him, in some shotgun situations where he was able to kind of pick through. You could definitely tell there was a difference between having Jeff Wilson Jr. and having Elijah Mitchell.
Yes.
Elijah Mitchell, once again, being
big
missed,
difference.
Was big. But you had Deebo Samuel that was able to take those Elijah Mitchell carries on the sweeps and the outside plays. Sometimes they were there and sometimes they weren't. Deebo took what was there, and the big run down the sideline was such a huge play because there's nothing special to it. It's just the execution of, and Tom Compton with an absolutely great block, taking out 2 guys on the sideline.
And it's a play that we've seen the Niners execute now a handful of times, and a lot of them have resulted in big runs from Debo or touchdowns from Debo Samuel. Whatever it is, when Kyle Shanahan dials up that little sweep action for Debo Samuel, the little turn handoff, sweep out of the gun, the blocking's been on point. Most of the time that they've run it, it's resulted in big opportunities for the 49ers. And they've done their job, like you said, they've executed. And that's what happened today. It felt like a lot. Is the Niners executed enough? They did enough to get out of this with a win, come up with stops, and put the Bengals in bad situations. And the Bengals didn't help themselves. They definitely bungled early and then found themselves and were able to claw their way back in and take advantage of some of the 49ers' weaknesses. But offensively, the Niners needed to do exactly what they did today. I mean, they could have done even more and made this game a whole heck of a lot easier on the entire fan base and themselves if they had. But it starts with our key matchups, and my offensive key matchup was Jimmy G versus blunders. Did I do that? Oops. There weren't a lot of oopses today. There was the one cover one robber that almost resulted in a pick for the 49ers. And that would have been a horrible throw by Jimmy G and a horrible situation for the 49ers offense in that moment at that point in time. But outside of that specific throw, there weren't any almost, oh my God, pick throws from Jimmy Garoppolo. There were high throws. There were throws that you want him to get down. There may be some throws you don't want to see him make. But for the most part, Jimmy Garoppolo operated again at a very high level. This is a return to the Jimmy Garoppolo we saw coming into the Chicago game and what we saw coming out of that Chicago game for a handful of games after that. I said all last week leading up into this game that I thought we were going to see a return of this Jimmy Garoppolo. Because for some reason, when the back is against the wall and the pressure's on for Jimmy and people are calling and pointing at him as a reason why the Niners aren't playing well, he seems to answer. Just like he answers when he typically throws a pick or makes a bad throw, he typically answers the next drive with a scoring drive or something of that nature. Jimmy Garoppolo just operates better when the pressure is on, and we saw it today.
Yeah, and a shocking development when people come knocking on his door, he answers. I mean, right? I mean, that's really what happens with Jimmy. I thought Jimmy played, pretty well, and what you're talking about is this key matchup was definitely a key matchup that needed to be executed in a high level because the 49ers wouldn't have been able to overcome any Jimmy G blunders. So the fact that Jimmy G was able to handle business and not turn the ball over is a real big part of the reason the 49ers won this game. And in fact, that's what was so pivotal about the whole thing is the 49ers didn't put the ball on the ground. They didn't put themselves in bad situations. And that's big. And that's what you needed from the football team. And they were able to execute and get it done. And that's why they won. That was a big key matchup. And my key matchup was the 49ers offense against a box of Bengals, the loaded box, because we knew that's what was going to happen. I thought early in this game that Kyle Shanahan thought he could still bully and go against this loaded box and still handle it. There was some, injuries to that linebacker core for the Bengals, and I think he thought, well, let's test it. Let's see if we can get this thing going, and if we can, then this game is going to be a lot easier than if we don't have to. But they needed to loosen up this box. They needed Jimmy Garoppolo to complete passes. The Bengals are one of the worst defenses with playing the pass over the middle. And that's where Jimmy Garoppolo lives. So they needed to take advantage of it. Early, Kyle Shanahan was trying not to do that, but later he figured it out. And once he got it going, then they were able to get the ball rolling. They were able to run the football, and that was really big. And they took advantage of this Bengals loaded box, and eventually it cost the Bengals the game because the 49ers offense, could not be denied. Jimmy Garoppolo led 2 what should have been game-winning drives. Of course, one, it doesn't happen because Robbie Gould misses the field goal. But the second one, they get it done. They get it done in a dramatic fashion with Brandon Ayuk. So I thought that overall it was a win in the long run because Jimmy Garoppolo threw over 40 times and they won this football game, defeating a loaded box, proving that if you want to load the box, Jimmy can still beat you. And that's something he has to prove every single week. And until he proves it every single week, people are going to keep loading this box and trying to take away this run.
Yeah, they're definitely going to. They're going to try to because this is an area where you feel there's a weakness with the 49ers. Especially with pass pro stuff, Tom Compton, not just Tom Compton, the right side of the line. Let's just be real. The right side of the line has been struggling. Daniel Brunskill's been struggling.
Tom Brunskills.
The Tom Brunskills of the world have definitely been struggling, unless it's Aaron Donald. And then magically Daniel Brunskill figures it out and knows what he's doing and is an all-pro. But until it's Aaron Donald, Daniel Brunskill is just a regular average Joe right guard trying to figure it out and make his way in the league. But look, offensively, while they sputtered, they figured it out when they needed to. And now this is, right, game-ending drives where Jimmy Garoppolo has taken the team down the field. Last week against Seattle ends because Carlos Dunlap makes an incredible play and bats the ball down and gets his big old 6'7" body up in space and, takes advantage of Jimmy Garoppolo's quick release and wanting to get the ball out space and a short route. Robbie Gould lets down Jimmy Garoppolo on the 49ers offense by missing, but then Jimmy capitalizes in a big way and is able to punch it in and get this offense into the end zone there late, which is great for the 49ers. It also shows that Jimmy Garoppolo can get it done late in football games. And I also found it funny, Ant, that he threw over 40 passes. The 49ers got a win on the 1 year anniversary not the 1 year anniversary, but the 2019 anniversary of Jimmy Garoppolo's wonderful performance against the Saints. So anyone who thought that Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't get it done, and anytime you bring up that Saints game, it's like, well, it's just one game. Well, fast forward 2 years, almost same exact day, same exact week, Jimmy Garoppolo does it again. So yes, Jimmy can do it. He can find a way. But like you said, it's definitely going to have to be a little more consistent with it because this is a recipe that teams are going to want to try and do to the 49ers and really load that box up, take away that run game, make Jimmy try and beat you with his arm. It won't be as easy over the middle of the field like it was against the Bengals each and every week, but Jimmy's going to have to find that recipe and find that formula to have that success offensively. But defensively, a lot of good things early in this football game, not as many good things late in this football game, but I did enjoy the consistent slowing down of Joe Mixon from start to finish, put the onus on Joe Burrow and the finger.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you had to take away the run game. Whenever you can make a team one-dimensional, it just makes it easier on your defense. I mean, conventional wisdom would have been to let them run the football and take away the pass because you have some struggles with the corners. You're going to have a rookie corner starting with Dante Johnson being out because of the unfortunate news about his mom passing away. So they had to figure something out. They went with Ambry Thomas. The only guess we have is that I know they said Ambry had a good week of practice, but probably a taller cornerback against a receiver like T. Higgins makes a lot of sense in what you're trying to do against this particular team. So yeah, there was big questions surrounding it, but they had to go in there and take it away. And we talked about this in the game plan video. Is could the 49ers take away the run game without putting a eighth guy in the box? Could they just go in there with their front seven and handle it? And absolutely they did. And during this game they lose Azeez Al Shaair. And could that be the reason that this game changes a little bit as Al Shaair goes off the field? You become a little bit weaker in certain situations. I thought Marcel Harris played admirably, but it does change the way that you play things. And this 49ers defense really had to step up. And one of the areas that they had to step up was actually my key matchup, was this 49ers defensive pass rush against the Bengals offensive line. And it was all about getting Burrow down. And I think that in this game, they didn't do it all the time. But like you said, 50% of the time they were getting those pressures. That was some point in the game where they were bringing that up. 49ers defensive line definitely got after it and came, this close to absolutely finishing this game off on their own. In regulation. I thought that they were playing good. It seemed like Arden Key, Samson Ebukam, Nick Bosa, of course, and Eric Armstead were consistently getting back there. But we also seen other guys, rotational pieces that are putting pressure on Joe Burrow. There's the one where Kentavious Street absolutely gets to Burrow, and what should have been a turnover with an interception. But 49ers get there. Azeez gets his hand on the ball and knocks it away over the top of Fred Warner, and it gets caught. But there was continuous pressure. Jordan Willis getting into the backfield. So I was excited about what I saw from them. I think this is an absolute win, especially early in this game. Nick Bosa, and then also in overtime, I know you brought this up on the reaction show, and I believe even in faceoff, that he almost finished it off, with a big sack that causes the Cincinnati Bengals to kick the field goal. Sure. Causing that field goal was huge. It gave the 49ers an opportunity, to go down and drive and win the football game. Without it, that game might be over because the Bengals are rolling towards the end of the game. Those last three drives were very impressive from them, but the 49ers were able to get it done, and it's because that defensive pass rush got it done in the end.
Agreed with you on that, man. They definitely did in a big way. But this is something we've come to know and have seen from this defensive line and just this pass rush in general. The formula has been figured out now. It's dialed in. Kasaric knows what guys he wants in what situations, and when he puts them out there, they're capitalizing. Davies Street, capitalizing. Givens, capitalizing. Amenahue, capitalizing. Willis, capitalizing. Everybody capitalizing. And I can't wait until you add Maurice.
It's a lot of capitalizing.
There's a lot of capitalizing. I can't wait till you add Maurice Hurst back into that mold and into that rotation as well, because there'll be even more capitalizing and with another big body on the inside there.
It's Texas, a lot of yelling.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a butt ton. But look, the 49ers defense, it was a roller coaster as well, but lows were low, a lot of it was just the rookies out there in space, whether it was Talanoa Hufanga or whether it's Ambry Thomas. You know what you're going to get with rookie play. You're going to have mistakes. You're going to have issues, and it showed. It showed in a big way. And this is just something that's going to happen at times. You're gonna make mistakes. When you're playing as well as they were early, though, the offense has to do a little bit better job of making sure you reward your defense for playing as well as they played, and they'll figure that out and get that dialed in as the season progresses. But part of getting this defensive line, this pass rush, the ability to get after Burrow, like you talked about, and you successfully completing your key matchup was Demeco Ryans being able to make sure that Joe Burrow can't go to read one, and that came down to disguising coverages, being the master of disguise. Demeco Ryans, in a big way, accomplished that early in this football game because Joe Burrow was holding onto the football. He was kind of double taking a little bit. He wasn't getting the ball out quick early in the game. Second half, that changed. They knew exactly how they wanted to attack the two over-the-top safeties. Ooh, and they went after it in a big way. Mr. Editor there almost changed to the wrong scene. Good save, my guy. Very good save. But look, they did what they needed to do. The Bengals adjusted. The 49ers then countered and adjusted as well. And like you talked about, and like I brought up in Face-Off and in the reaction show a little bit, when they needed to stop, when guys needed to make plays, two guys stepped up. Ward stepped up and deflected that pass on second down. And Bosa got in there and got the big sack and made them take the three and put the onus now on your offense. Fred's face when he lost that coin toss had me a little bit worried because he looked like he was agonizing the defense having to go out there and get a stop and make a stop. But Fred, you guys did it. Your boys did it in a big way. And you tip your hat to the 49ers defense. You did enough to win this football game, and the offense finished it off for you.
All you have to do is believe.
Believe?
I believed in this defense. I believed in Fred Warner. But you're right. He did look like he was disappointed. But I think he was disappointed because he felt like if they got the ball, Jimmy could lead them down and win the football game right then.
I agree with you on that.
But, I like the way that it played out from a spectator point of view. From a fan point of view, I hated it. I wanted the 49ers to win this game in
regulation.
I just wanted them to destroy them, actually. I was hoping this was going to be a runaway game. When they started getting up there where it was close to 24-6, I thought, oh, here we go. We're going to roll.
Relax, enjoy the rest of the game, sip some Mai Tais.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Mai Tais for me.
I'll take some Mai Tais.
You do the Mai Tais.
Get you some more tacos.
Yeah, that's not my go-to. I didn't even eat tacos today. Yeah.
Wow.
It's raining outside. I went with the chicken and dumplings.
Hey, that's
solid.
So,
but yeah, it was. I thought overall that the 49ers felt like they could execute at the end of this football game. And I thought, the twists and turns from a spectator point was exciting. From a fan point, it was agonizing.
Accurate.
And I was agonizing through every moment. But in the end, they get the win. And that's what's important. And you get big plays from your big players in critical moments. Whether it's George Kittle, making the stretch out, getting to the end zone. Deebo Samuel getting up the sidelines and being able to run the tightrope and get into the end zone with Tom Compton making an absolutely fantastic block on the outside.
Huge blocks.
And then Brandon Ayuk, finishing the game off with the sideline as well. Getting upfield and just being a absolute extremely gifted athlete. And making a great play, but it's a great call by Kyle Shanahan. He has a levels concept with Brandon Ayuk releasing underneath. Then he has Jawan Jennings in the intermediate route and Deebo Samuel to the corner. And that's what freezes all the defenders because you have that sort of route. Jawan Jennings, though, had afforded them the opportunities that they had to cover him. They couldn't cover him with just one guy either because he's been making big plays. And in that drive alone, he made that big play down the sideline where he caught it, and it was a back shoulder throw that he went up and used his strong hands to catch it. I thought he showed out in a big way. This was the first game that I felt that we didn't miss Mohamed Sanu because we had Jawan Jennings, and that's been hard to say because even though Jennings' blocking has been very good, the receiving game hasn't been there to the level that we need it. So this was a big game from him, and it's an emergence of him. I'm hoping this continues through the rest of the regular season. That way when Sanu does come back, we have even more formidable options. But I thought, and I want to see how you felt about this, Alex, that this game felt like Kyle Shanahan couldn't go to all of his weapons like Deebo as much as he wanted to, so he used the skill set of the players that he had better than maybe he ever has, whether that's Brandon Ayuk catching the ball with the quick screens, the smoke screens out in the flat, whether that was running the reverses, getting Jawan Jennings in the possession roles, getting Travis Benjamin down the field or somewhere where he can run really fast. I just thought he was using his guys very well.
How about last week we saw a lot of Kyle Juszczyk releasing out for big reception opportunities, whether it was wheel routes or just running routes off of play action and things of that nature. Utilizing the same look this week with Kyle Juszczyk releasing, taking linebackers downfield, and then delaying George Kittle out into the flat so he can catch the ball. I mean, he went into the bag of tricks today. I mean, he went into the bag of tricks on Sunday and just pulled out whatever he needed. Whatever it was going to take to get this win, he was going to be able to call it. He was going to put the Niners in a position to execute it, and the guys did. The Brandon Ayuk reverse that ends up being supposed to be a pass downfield where Ayuk just tucks it and gets 8 yards, 9 yards on it or whatever it was, 4 yards.
Yeah.
So he gets 4 yards, but again, positive play keeps things moving great.
First down, that's great.
Yeah, it's huge. But those types of things, it's like, okay, we've at times haven't seen that from Kyle this year. Early in the season, they weren't getting touches for Brandon. We're like, well, maybe they just need to find a way to get Brandon more involved early, and maybe that's the reason why Brandon's struggling to get separated. He doesn't feel like he's a part of the game or whatever it was. That ends up not being the case. But Kyle now is at a point where he knows where his guys are. He knows where they're at mentally and what their role is within the system, and the guys know how to execute what's expected and what's being asked, and they're executing at a fairly high level. I know it was a little spotty today at times and inconsistent in moments. But I think part of that is you having a conflicting identity with who you want to be and what you need to be for this game, right? You want to be a team who can run the football, but you need to be able to throw this game in order to open up the opportunities to run the ball the way you'd like to run the ball. And so you have these conflicting narratives going on at the same time, and Kyle not wanting to lose sight of who you are and what your team is, but also knowing that you have to try and do something to create those opportunities for your offense to be able to run the ball the way you want and move the ball down the field and chunk things out and have those long sustaining drives like he likes. And they found the balance. They found the balance when they needed to, and they definitely found the balance on those last 2 drives because the Niners just carved up the Bengals moving down the field at the end of the game. After that drive in overtime, in the fourth quarter for the game-winning field goal, I felt the same way you did. If the 49ers get the ball in overtime, it's over. We're scoring. We're scoring, and this game is over. It's no more of this, no more games, none of that. So it was disheartening when the defense had to be the one to go out first because if the Niners offense gets the ball, it's done. But your defense does what it's supposed to do, and it gets you to that point. So, yeah, I agree with you on that. I think Kyle literally took all the pieces, all the weapons. What do I got? How can I make sure we get out of this with a win? How can we score enough points to come out of here with a win without exhausting Deebo Samuel? And putting him in a position where, we just push his body to the max. We don't need to do that this week.
Another thing that I'm curious to see is how many snaps Kyle Juszczyk was actually on the field. There were situations where he didn't play, where they went, one running back set, sometimes with that other back being out wide and Deebo being in the backfield. But what it does sometimes, even when you bring in tight ends, is it gives you the opportunity to add an extra gap up to the line of scrimmage. And when somebody is got a box like that, if you can add an extra gap, you can add an extra lane where you can run the football. And it actually worked. I've seen Jeff Wilson Jr. getting some positive yards on that. They run the same play twice in a row where they bring Charlie Warner against and he kicks out the DN and they run up inside of it. So I'm curious how many snaps it was. And I wonder if this is somewhat of a trend or just something he saw on film to take advantage of Cincinnati and a certain personnel grouping, which I believe you always look to do. You want to get their weakest personnel grouping in. With them having, weaknesses at the linebacker position, conventional wisdom would be put them in base sets and then run at them. By pulling Juice out and having Jawan Jennings in and those 3 wide receiver looks, then sometimes it wasn't about that, but it was actually about getting that nickel group out there and taking advantage of that nickel group, which he did. And it worked out pretty well. So I'm curious what that snap differential was and how often we're going to see that moving forward.
It'll definitely be something to keep an eye on, Ant. But another thing to keep an eye on is all these players have stepped up in a big way for the offense and the defense because we're going to need it. We need all of it the rest of the season. This next week, no joke either, the Atlanta Falcons have been another team that's been up and down, but have played a lot of really good teams really, really tight. But let's start with our offensive straight beasts of the game. Let's get to them.
My offensive straight beast player of the game is really simple. He's 85 in your heart, or 85 in the program, but number 1 in your hearts.
True.
George Kittle. Absolutely fantastic game. Got it done. 13 catches. Big pivotal touchdown in this football game. Gets all the momentum. But catch after catch that needed to be made in the fourth quarter and in overtime that put the 49ers in prime position to win this game. I think George Kittle has been showing out. 6 straight games with touchdowns. Right now, nobody on the 49ers is playing better, and that's crazy to say because Deebo Samuel is having an absolute career year as well.
He still is.
This 49ers offense is producing some talent in a big way. Kyle Shanahan's using his weapons, but George Kittle, big-time game.
Huge game, man. Huge game. He's just been killing it since he's been back, and it couldn't come at a better time because it takes the pressure off of Deebo Samuel and allows Deebo to fulfill the role of the running back group right now that we need him to fulfill while we're trying to get our guys healthy and get the offense going in the right direction. But part of that success also comes with Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's why I have to give him some credit and make him my straight beast, is because what we've seen from Jimmy this last 5 weeks is a return to a version of Jimmy Garoppolo that I don't think a lot of people thought we'd ever see again. That 2017 version of Jimmy Garoppolo that had the high QBRs, was leading incredible comeback drives, was throwing the football downfield, taking shots outside the numbers. I mean, he's consistently been doing it now week in and week out. Yes, there's been some sputtering moments the last couple of weeks, but more often than not, we've seen a Jimmy Garoppolo that has led this team and moved this offense down the field consistently and scored a lot of points and enough points to win football games. That's huge. When you got a quarterback who's allowing your offense to put up points in order to come away with wins, whether you're coming away with them or not, you have a chance. You have an opportunity. And that's what you want as a coach, and that's what you want as a team, is chances and opportunities to win football games. And Jimmy has given them that. Has he made life harder for the team at times? Of course. But every guy on the team has done that this year at some point, one way or another, whether it's a false start, whether it's a hold, defensive pass interference, a fumble at the inopportune time. It's happened with everyone. So the fact that Jimmy has overcome all of the negativity and all the craziness surrounding the quarterback room, the moving up for Trey Lance, his future in San Francisco up in the air and in question, the fact that he's been able to focus in, lead this team, execute, find George Kittle, find Deebo Samuel, reconnect with Brandon Ayuk, throw back shoulder on the sideline to Jawan Jennings, whatever it is, Jimmy has been able to do it. The 49ers offense has been succeeding because of it, and I love it. I love this version of Jimmy Garoppolo. I love this version of Jimmy. This is the reason why we made the move for him. It's why we signed him to the contract in the first place. You want him to stay healthy. You want him to keep doing this because if he can, the 49ers can do big things in the playoffs.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, and he's got a natural chemistry with George Kittle. He's been developing chemistry, throughout the year with Brandon Ayuk, and it seems to be getting better and better. And it seems like he can hit Jawan Jennings whenever he wants now. Him and Jennings have something going. So it seems that him and his receivers are starting to click at a high level. And hopefully that's going to translate because you're going to need to make these big-time plays and these big-time throws in the games that are coming up, because right now every single game is like a playoff game. You got to go out there. You got to win all the games. And if you do, then you're going to give yourself an opportunity. And that's all you're looking for is an opportunity. And Jimmy Garoppolo is battle-tested. He knows what it takes to win. He knows what it takes to grind it out. And he's not worried about what the numbers look like. So hopefully he can get out there, every single week and do this. But you're right. It's been nice to see him back in form and playing better than he has. Anytime you get a situation like this with almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions with over a 100 quarterback rating, you're feeling pretty good about your quarterback and especially about Jimmy Garoppolo. That's putting yourself in position to win. When he does that, then you love having Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback.
You 100% do, Ant. But now we need to turn our attention to the defensive side of the ball and who was hot on the block against the Bengals. Time for the block is hot.
It's time for the block is hot defensive player of the game. And my defensive player of the game is number 97 himself, Bosa. Nick Bosa's getting after it. He's causing all kinds of problems. He's pretty much unblockable. Burrow barely had time to get rid of it. Nick Bosa actually got, cost a sack because of Ambry Thomas, hands to the face, or his numbers would have been even more ridiculous.
Would have been 3 sacks.
I believe like 2.5, I think.
I think he finished with 2.5.
Did he? Well, then it would have been 3.5 if that's the case.
That's nuts.
However, this was an impressive performance by him. And, I mean, he's on track. He's pushing real close to having, he's going to get close to, 20 sacks, maybe? He's going to get real close.
It's close. It's going to be stupid close.
It's one heck of a season coming off an ACL, but he's impactful. The 49ers are letting him choose which side he wants to rush from, and it's paying dividends. If we can get D Ford or one of these other guys like Samson Ebby coming to step up a little bit more with a speed rush off the outside, Bosa's numbers could go even further through the roof.
Yes, especially since Eric Armstead is eating up on the interior as well, forcing a lot of teams to have to just double him or
to hold.
There's a lot of holding. There's just a lot of holding all over the place. But look, this was hard for me. This was a hard one for me because Bosa, yes, it's just a yes. But there's a guy that I have been seeing now each and every week making sacrifices defensively for this football team. And I don't see a lot of people talking about it. I see a lot of people talking about how excited they are to see Talanoa Hufanga out there playing in the secondary. But I don't see anyone talking about Jaquiski Tartt coming off the field, letting Talanoa Hufanga go out there and run, which at times is, I think, to the detriment of the 49ers defense, because Hufanga has, in those moments, in some of those situations, been burnt. When Tartt, I don't think you think, or I think, he would have been. But Jaquiski Tartt isn't making a fuss about anything. He's taking on a role in special teams, stepping up in a big way, and laying the wood and hammer down when he is in the box. And he laid one on Joe Mixon in this game as well, and has been pretty solid in coverage. I got to give this to Jaquiski Tartt this week for this specific reason, and this specific reason only. This guy is being a veteran presence who's mentoring and not making it about himself. He understands that this is a business. He understands that Talanoa Hufanga is potentially the future at the position for the 49ers long-term, and that he may not have a long-term future. And maybe he's taking his cue from Jimmy Garoppolo, who's dealing with a very similar situation on the other side of the football, with a guy behind him. The only difference being that Jimmy's not being asked to come off the field and lose some of his snaps and shares and things of that nature. Or maybe it's because Jaquiski Tartt's not 100% healthy. They're trying to protect him for playoffs. I don't know what it is, but the fact that Jaquiski Tartt continues to play with the energy that he's played with, and has been playing at the level that he's been playing with, and not making a big deal about it, and then stepping up on special teams and fulfilling a role both on kickoffs, kick returns, and punts today. I saw him out there a lot on punts, doing stuff and being a protector back there. Jaquiski Tartt, I tip my hat to you, man. You're a consummate professional. This 49ers team is better off having you around. And I don't know. It'll be very hard for me to say that I don't want you back on this roster with this team. As much as Talanoa Hufanga has impressed, you're an absolute incredible presence in this locker room, and the tone you set defensively for this team will be missed sorely when the time comes.
Yeah, I mean, Tartt's a good choice. I thought overall this season that Tartt and Ward have played fantastic. Ward especially, but I think Tartt often, you don't hear his name very much, so you forget. But the real reason is you're not hearing his name very much because he's got his job taken care of, and he's got people covered. He does a pretty good job. There's occasional times, of course, where he gets beat.
100%. But
I think he's been a very good player and one of the better safeties playing in the box, especially on the 49ers. He may be the best safety in the box that the 49ers have. So, yeah, I think that's a good choice, and he's somebody that probably deserves recognition that doesn't get it very often.
Well, I went with it, Ant. That's why it's feeling that way about Jaquiski. Jaquiski, keep doing your thing, my guy. But, Ant, it's time to nominate some Hurt Business inductees, guys who laid the hurt down on the Bengals. Let's get to it. It really wouldn't be the Hurt Business, Ant, if Trent Williams wasn't inducted, and he has to be, nor if Azeez Al Shaair isn't inducted. Both of these guys, week in and week out now, have been laying the hammer down. Even when Trent Williams is getting holding calls, Ant, he's still pancaking guys. Most of the time, a guy is getting held and is getting beat. Trent Williams is holding and then also putting the guy into the ground as well. And just that doesn't include all the times where he's going up to second level and demolishing linebackers, getting outside and destroying corners. And Azeez consistently, each and every week, at least one big hit on a running back, wide receiver, doesn't matter. Azeez is there.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. The one on the kickoff where it almost got a fumble, but he just puts him on the ground. He hits him in a big way. It's a big hit, momentum type hit. So, yeah, Flanagan-Fowles' improvement, in the last few weeks has been very noticeable. It was nice to have him back on special teams, though, where he could be the special teams ace that he
100%. It's always nice having Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles on special teams, where he is an absolute stud. But you also, I brought it up just a little second ago when we were talking about my block is hot defensive player, Jaquiski Tartt. That hit on Joe Mixon set the tone. Guys were hyped. It was noticeable. It popped on screen, and the where I was listening to the game, it was just a loud boom, and Mixon going flying backwards. It was like, holy cow, Hart, my God, what a hit. Fred did a flex. Everyone was getting hype about it. And this defense just has its swagger right now. Even when guys like Azeez go down and you have a rookie corner there on the outside who, they're making mistakes but also making some plays and doing some positive things for this defense, the swagger is still there. These guys still have confidence. And it showed big at the end of the football game.
Yeah, and the last one we're going to go with is Tom Compton. The block that he makes on the side of does he blow them up? No, but he takes out two guys with one block. You spring Deebo Samuel for a touchdown. absolutely fantastic. He pulls around and blocks guys in open field and guys that are very good athletes.
Yes.
The fact that he's able to make that block is big. It was a moment where it was very, like we brought up in the reaction show, very Mike McGlinchey-esque, and that's very nice that we need that kind of play for Tom Compton that makes up for the times where he struggles in the pass game. So Tom Compton, welcome to the Hurt Business. It's your first time being there.
It is. It's his first time, and surprisingly enough, it's on a run block and not a pass block.
No shock.
I'm stunned. I'm absolutely stunned by that.
I don't even think has Trent Williams made it on a pass block? Maybe.
Yeah. There was that. Remember that one where he single armed through the guy?
Oh, okay.
On the pass rush. Remember that? I remember that. It was absolutely incredible.
So
we laughed back on the All-22 film while watching it because it's just like he threw him like a child.
Yeah, really, yeah.
And it was a D end. We're not talking about like a corner, like a nickel corner blitzing off the edge or a safety. It's a pass rushing defensive end. He just throws him like didn't exist.
Yeah.
Trent Williams is just the best. Speaking of best, Ant, our go-tier members on Patreon, what a segue. They are the best as well.
It wasn't until you told everyone.
That's true. But the go-tier members on Patreon are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
They help support and produce a bunch of extra additional content. And they're just going above and beyond with the Cutback crew in terms of supporting this channel and helping us continue to come up with new ideas and push the boundaries of what we can do on this podcast and the types of shows that we're bringing you, whether it's Face Off, whether it's Cutback in Times over on Patreon's Big Yikes, whether it's the Know Your Opponent All-22 film previews here, our game recaps and game preview shows with the additional graphic. I mean, all of the stuff that we're doing here and all the content we're producing, it's supported by all of you, but we got to give a special thanks to these fine folk over here who just go above and beyond supporting the Cutback crew and supporting us here on the channel.
Yeah, they do a great job, and they're all very active, too, on the channel. Whether that is, on Patreon or also on YouTube. They are active in the comment section, big time supporters. We couldn't do it without them. We're very appreciative of all of our members and all of our Patreons, but we're really just proud and happy for everyone that comes by on a daily and leaves a comment or gets involved in the conversation, watches, gives a like, gives a share, whatever you do. We really are appreciative of you. And we're appreciative of the entire Cutback crew and everything that they present, and we like it. We like this channel. We like the family atmosphere that's here, and we appreciate all the people that have been involved. So it's been fun so far. Looking forward to a nice playoff push, and we're gonna have some exciting times and a bunch of great episodes of Big Yikes.
Oh, tons. There's nothing but great content coming your way, Cutback crew, and you deserve it. You deserve all of it. The support you've given this channel has been absolutely phenomenal. To go from this time last year, probably sitting around maybe 100 subs if we were lucky, to now being over 2,100 is absolutely incredible. The growth has been phenomenal. It's been fantastic. And all of it is because of you. I mean, none of this happens if you all don't get on board, you don't get excited about being here, commenting, liking, subscribing, and then just being involved, because all of it is because of you.
Yeah, 100%. We couldn't do it without you. It would be pretty lonely if we were just doing this by ourselves with no one watching.
Accurate. It would be lonely. Oh, so lonely. But hey, at least I have one of my best buddies right here next to me, talking 49ers, talking about the team we love.
There you go.
And I'll tell you what, this team right now, making me love them each and every day. I even love them when I'm hating them, man. It's crazy. It's like unconditional love. It's fantastic. The 49ers, though, making this big playoff push. And Cutback crew, let us know what you thought about this recap show. Listen, you may not have loved everything about the game, but hopefully you loved everything about the show and everything that is going the 49ers way right now, because they're 7-6. They're sitting in the 6th seed. They're keeping pace with the Los Angeles Rams, and we'll see what happens tonight on Monday Night Football and whether or not the 49ers are even better position if the Rams, lose to the Arizona Cardinals. You probably should do that, McVay. We'd really appreciate it. And just the 49ers being in the thick of the playoff conversation, whereas last year that wasn't the case.
Yeah, they weren't, and it's nice to be in a position where December football and potentially January football is on the docket for the 49ers, to be competitive and be something that you can watch and willing to watch, because in 2020 you almost wanted to shut it off in December.
Accurate.
The 49ers are playing very impactful games and important games. So I'm hoping they can get a big win. This is almost the Atlanta Falcons game coming up is almost a playoff game. 49ers win, they will put a huge damper on the Falcons' chances to make the playoffs,
and a lot of NFC teams' chances.
Oh yeah, and they'll put themselves in prime position to not only get into the playoffs, but either the 6th or 5th seed, which depending on who they're playing, could be a great situation.
100%, Ant. 100%. Cutback crew, buckle up. The season is just getting going, and playoffs are just around the corner. The Niners in the thick of it, and basically not peaking, but climbing towards that peak here late in the season, which is what you want to see. Hopefully they get hot and stay hot. We'll see you on the next one. And until then, stay safe.
Remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way.